Namaste and warm greetings from the beautiful land of India. Honorable Dr. Hong Tausig, President of the Federation of World Peace and Love, Excellencies, distinguished co-speakers, ladies and gentlemen. UNESCO in 1994 declared the 5th of October to be the World Teachers' Day. The day marks the anniversary of the adoption of the 1966 ILO UNESCO recommendation concerning the status of teachers, which sets benchmarks regarding the rights and responsibilities of teachers and standards for their initial preparation and further education, recruitment, employment, and teaching and learning conditions. It also contains numerous recommendations for teacher participation in educational decision-making through social dialogue and negotiation with educational authorities. World Teachers' Day is held annually on this day to celebrate all teachers around the globe. Owing to the global context of the COVID-19 pandemic and following the spirit of the international benchmarks on the status of teaching personnel, this year's observation of World Teachers' Day will focus on the effect that the pandemic has had on education and on teachers, as well as the steps that need to be taken to ensure that teaching personnel develop their full potential to play the role expected of them in recovering from the pandemic and achieving the 2030 Global Education Goal, SDG 4, that is quality education. In other words, this year will focus on the support teachers need to fully contribute to the recovery process under the theme Teachers at the Heart of Education Recovery. Teachers are undoubtedly at the hub of an individual learning, growth, and evolution. They are the gardeners on the garden of knowledge and learning who sow the seeds, nurture the saplings and young tender flower buds with love and care into blossoming and beautiful flowers of the future. Never have teachers been more wanted and needed than today. The educational disruptions and school closures caused by the pandemic have confirmed the crucial role of teachers in maintaining learning continuity, as well as in the sustaining of the dynamics of households, families, and communities. During the current crisis, we have witnessed how teachers have been at the heart of educational responses. They have provided online teaching and learning. They have prepared take-home packages for students living in rural and remote areas that lack the connectivity and technologies needed to pursue online learning. They have adapted their practices and diversified the formats, means, and contents of education to cater for the needs of learners, including their socio-emotional well-being. And they have preserved and reinforced social interaction amongst learners, fellow teachers, and school communities, often checking in on students via social media and messaging systems and exchanging practices and resources with other practitioners, enhancing a sense of community within the profession. As a result, parents, communities, and education systems have engaged in discussions of importance. Features that could contribute to develop a renewed appreciation of teachers and their vital role in educational recovery and in the supporting of social, economic, and cultural life of societies. Even though a plethora of studies and reports have concluded that teachers have a direct impact on students' learning and well-being, and that teacher quality, beyond the socio-economic conditions of students and the context of the educational process, is the single most important in-school factor influencing student achievement, teachers remain unrecognized and underappreciated. A consequence of this lack of recognition is the fact that the teaching profession is not one of the most appealing careers for the best students going into tertiary education. This situation is all the more worrying since a shortage of teachers has been affecting the world for more than a decade. According to projections from the UNESCO Institute of Statistics, in order to ensure universal primary and secondary education by 2030, as per the SDG target 4.1, 49 million more teachers are needed worldwide, 24 million for primary and 44 million for secondary education. Beyond the working conditions and remuneration of teachers, many countries display an unequal standing when one compares teachers with professions requiring the same level of education, responsibility and workload. It is essential to restore the role of teachers as key actors in rebuilding more adaptive education systems that are resilient against future shocks and ensure equity and inclusion for all learners at all times. Transformations that we have witnessed in education and the challenges described so far call for new forms of policy support for teachers for an effective recovery that leaves no one behind and that puts together foundations for resilience building and reimagining education. This policy support needs to cover multiple areas like teachers' professional development, participation in decision making and their working conditions, and support all teachers from novice to experienced teachers in a lifelong perspective. This approach can ensure that the SDG 4 target on increasing the supply of qualified teachers remains a compass for policy action and international cooperation, and that teachers remain at the heart of educational recovery. Nelson Mandela rightly called education the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So let us acknowledge the contribution of teachers who are robust catalysts of this abundance of learning and knowledge and who continue to be critical to the recovery of education now and in the post-pandemic era. Thank you and namaste.